Okay.
For me personally, it was a 2-year time to really reflect. I feel like I've never reflected as much as I did this past 2 years, right? I know people come on the MBA, just try to have fun, like move on. Like it's very fast paced, right? You're moving from one thing to the other. So there's really no time for you to like calm down.
Yeah.
Like take account of what has happened and then do your plus and minus before moving on to the next thing. But for me, I feel like what I tried to do a lot was to take a pause, reflect on everything that has happened, like feedback I've gotten from friends, right? Even from my career coaches.
Yeah.
But it was basically a 2-year period for me to improve myself as a human being.
Okay. Welcome to a special production of the Business 101 podcast. I am your host, Ayo Oye. This is a limited release, specifically sharing stories and experiences from some of the world's most selective and most prestigious business schools from the lens of recent international graduates. Today, it is my absolute honor to welcome a special guest from one of America's coldest business schools and one that needs no introduction. Ranked consistently as one of the most prestigious in North America and the world, Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. My guest is Tolulope Ogunsola, a class of 2025 MBA graduate. Prior to Ross, Tolu worked for one of the world's most prestigious professional services firms, PwC, for 4 years as a data analyst. At Ross, he recruited for the consulting industry and was actively involved as a non-profit board fellow. He was also the communications vice president for the Africa Business Club and served as a student ambassador. Post MBA, she has now joined Visa Consulting and Analytics as a consulting manager. All of that being said, it is my honor to welcome Tolu to the podcast. Thank you for coming, Tolu. Good to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I think a good place to start would be to kind of fleshing up that bio a bit more, right? I know I didn't do justice, but I didn't want to take all the life out of it. Wanted to give you some opportunity to talk a bit more about it. So let's say pre-MBA, right before the MBA came into the conversation, was Tolu, what kind of stuff did she get up to? What was work like? What was growing up like?
Yeah, so growing up, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, interestingly, but things turned around when I entered my senior secondary school and then was a commercial student. I realized I liked accounting, which looking back today is also very interesting to me. Right. Then started following that path. I worked with an investment bank as a financial analyst, as an intern, worked with an insurance institution in Nigeria before moving on to PwC to work as a data analyst. So
Okay.
my journey from there to PwC, it's a very interesting one because when I applied to PwC, I thought, oh, I'm going to become an auditor. Oh, I love accounting. Like I'm already chartered. Like
Mm,
this is the way forward for me. But PwC just looked at me and said, no, we have something different for you. And then just threw me into the data analytics unit. Like
mm,
no knowledge of data, zero knowledge. I was just put in that unit and then I realized I like data. I like technology, right? I come from a family where people love tech, people love music. So it was a very sweet spot for me, seeing that data analytics at PwC was a combination of, yeah, accounting, right? You're using analytics tools to look at like companies' financials, right? And also giving them advice on that. I also realized I like consulting, but not consulting, but like a very balanced consulting, let me put it that way. And then I was grateful, was blessed enough to meet a manager who really took interest in me and saw that business school was the next opportunity for me to embark on. And then she held me, coached me through the process. And then yeah, that was basically my journey to Ross.
Wait, before we talk about business school and the journey, you said very balanced consulting. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I feel like because I work at Visa now, I've come to realize that consulting doesn't have to be 80 hours a week, right? You can do consulting 40 hours a week
Yeah.
and enjoy all the sweetness in quotes of
Mm.
consulting. Yeah.
So we're throwing shades. We're throwing shades now. I like it. I like it. I
It's
like
not
it.
shit, but like come to the good side.
Okay, okay. On the way. You also said at PwC you were data analysis. Is that different from the risk assurance unit?
Yeah.
Is it the same?
It's so at PwC Nigeria,
Yeah.
right? Data analytics is under risk assurance services,
Okay.
right? But it's not. It's under risk assurance services, right? You have data analytics, and then you have like internal audit and the likes. So it's just a branch of risk assurance.
Interesting. So this was PwC in Nigeria, right?
It's PwC Nigeria.
I have a friend who was in that role up until 2020, I think. His name is David Alade. I don't know if you know
Oh
him.
yes, he
You know
was.
David?
Yeah,
We got into PwC together.
yes, he was a year ahead of me.
Oh, no, that's so cool. Yeah, we got in at the same time. That's so cool. Okay. So now we kind of spoke a bit through your background. At some point, MBA came into the conversation. You said it was a manager of yours brought up the conversation. Then
Yes.
when you learned about it, why did you think, okay, this is a good fit for me? Was there any gap in your experience you're trying to see, or was it, well, I want to get experienced, I want to get exposed to non-African markets? What was that rationale like?
Yeah. I think from my conversation with my manager, so this manager in question actually has PwC America experience. So she
Okay,
only just came to Nigeria for a short period of time. She
okay.
just had a feel of what the African market was like.
Hmm.
So in getting to know her, getting to know the project she had worked on, even as an intern at PwC America, I really it really resonated with me. Like I needed to broaden my horizon,
Mm,
right? Like do something different. Like not just be a champion in a small pool, right?
yeah.
It's it's important to taste other waters, and that was how that conversation started. And then I also realized that I had like leadership gaps. Yeah, at PwC, I was taking up leadership roles, but it wasn't enough to have gotten me to the role of wanting to be a CEO or starting my own business,
Mm.
right? So I think those two major reasons were what I really felt was the need for me to embark on an MBA journey as at that point in time.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, most people, when they get to the point where they're like, "Oh, I want to get an MBA," right? They find themselves choosing between going to school in Europe and going in North America. I mean, there are great business schools on other continents, but just from a volume perspective, most of the most prestigious ones are in these two continents, right? Did you this kind of um, this kind of decision making problem, or was it North America from the start?
Okay, so for the MBA, my focus was mainly on
Okay.
America specific, like the United States of America
Why?
specific. And that's because I have an elder brother
Okay.
who 2 years ahead had already done his MBA, right? And I have like my brother has a couple of friends as well who had done their MBA, and also this my manager in question who was going for an MBA at Wharton.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, okay, that's the way forward. Like I have support system there. Like it just makes sense for me to go in that direction.
That makes sense. So my next question was going to be, was it easy, having this conversation with your family? Did you have any friction, or, was there any friction communicating this with your family? Did anyone think it was a bad idea? But now that you said that your brother and a lot of people in your circle already got MBAs, I want to assume this was already an easy conversation, so you didn't get any resistance in this regard.
This now, I think right from time, my parents have always been very, very supportive of our education decisions, right?
Nigerian trends.
Yeah, like it's educate for goodness sake,
Yeah.
and you're going to America. Like your brother
Why
has done
not?
it well, he has succeeded. Oh, please go, right? So they were very much backing me. Like I remember, like during that whole period, my father was constantly checking in, like, oh, like how are you preparing for your GRE?
Mm.
I think it even got to a point my father was even almost also reading, like preparing for the GRE
Wow.
to have conversations with me.
Wow.
That's just how I have grown up, right? My parents tend to be very much involved in what we do.
Mm.
So yeah, I had their 100% support. Yeah.
Okay. And personally, was there any point where you're like, I'm beginning to get cold feet. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue. Did that happen?
It never happened to me because I had
Okay.
people, like I had predecessors who were already a guiding light for me. So that was enough. That was just the comfort I could rest in. Like
Mm.
have people who have done it and are actually holding my hands.
Yeah.
So that just gave me enough comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like everyone who has successfully gone through the MBA recruitment process, MBA application process, whether you get an offer, whether you eventually go to business school or not. I feel like everyone could write a book about the
Yes.
experience, right? It's a very rich and challenging experience. Let's talk
Yes.
about some of yours, right? So GRE, visa, all the
Yeah.
madness. I want to hear the stories.
I'm happy to talk about this
Let's go.
because I feel like it's from the flashbacks that you're able to see how far you've grown,
Yes,
how far
yes.
you've come as well.
Hmm.
So let's start from GRE. I wrote GRE times, right? I was working and I was writing GRE. I was already fine my career, so there just wasn't enough time to dedicate to GRE. So I had to write GRE 3 times. And I'm also thankful that my parents were very supportive and just into just see me through that stage. Interestingly, I didn't have like a perfect GRE score, but I still went ahead to apply.
Yeah.
And then applying to schools, what my manager told me was, oh, Tolu, like, you really don't need a perfect GRE score. Okay, let's take a look at your background. Like, you finished with the first class, you're a chartered accountant, working with PwC, right? You have a couple of extracurricular. Like, that's already enough for you to, like, just give it a try. So I applied to schools. I, I didn't hear from a couple of
Did you say
schools.
9 schools?
Yes, I applied to 9
Okay,
schools.
okay.
Yeah, I applied to 9 schools. Let's not talk about application fee.
Eh, eh,
I applied to 9 schools. I was able to like get application fee waiver from a couple,
hmm.
right? But had to like pay for a few. Thanks to my parents once again. Thanks to my parents once again.
Shout out to them.
Shout out, big shout out to them.
Big shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Ogunsola.
Yes, and my brothers as well. Like all my support system, awesome, amazing people. I applied to 9 schools. Did interview for 5.
Okay,
But got admission with scholarships from 2. So
okay.
this part is interesting because I got admission from Rice School of Business,
Houston.
right? And I already applied for my visa.
Okay,
I was placed on the waitlist for us, and Ross already like brought us on a conference call, like all the waitlisted students, like, oh, we're sorry, like, oh, you're on the waitlist. Waitlisted students almost never get scholarship, right?
oh
So
wow.
I'd already like taken Ross out of my mind, like, oh, no scholarship. Okay, let me just focus on Rice. I'd already like started my visa process. I was actually a few days away from going for my visa interview when Ross called. It was just that night I just got like so like a foreign number. I'm like, oh, who is calling
Interesting.
me? I'm like, I picked it and then I spoke to my to the admission guy, like, oh, we are happy to like offer you admission with scholarship. And I was like,
Interesting.
shocked, like, I thought you said you were not going to give me.
Yeah. You didn't do anything since when you were
Yes,
on the wait list.
interestingly, I didn't do anything to get up the
Wow.
because I was like, oh, like Ross already said they're not offering
Yes,
waitlist.
there's no point.
Like, there's no point. But I just got called, and that also created a dilemma for me because I was already into Rice. Like, I'd already
Yeah.
started making friends. I'd already started looking at apartments. Mind you, I was few days away from going for my visa interview.
Wow.
Right? And then the next thing I did was just to call my brother who was in the US, had already like finished his MBA. He was like,
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer. Like, why are we having this conversation? You admission. You have admission from Rice. Like, what exactly are we talking about? He said, okay, like so interestingly, my manager and my brother also know each other because it's just like a circle of friends.
Okay.
And then my brother's best friend and my manager went to the same business school. It's like a tight circle. And then I spoke to my brother's best friend, AY. Shout out to AY. Like, he's
Shout
been
out to my namesake.
guy to me on these journeys. Ayola Oladipupo. And then he just come like, Tolu, like, what are we like? Okay, you need me to convince you. You are going to Rust.
I mean, they're both 4 letter words, right? That start with
Yes.
R. So Rice Ross. Pretty easy.
Spoke to my manager as well, Sandra also. Sandra was like, Tolu, you want me to put it in your mouth? Okay, Tolu, I'm telling you now that you are going to Ross. Like,
No
you're not going to.
questions asked.
I understand that that's it. That just look at it as a sunk cost, right? Like, just look forward to what you would achieve from going to Ross, right? Look at it in that perspective, not in hindsight. And then before even my brother just told me, oh, Tolu, send your admission password. Like, I didn't know what he was doing. And then next, my brother paid for the pass fee. I was like, Tolu, you are going to Ross.
Wow.
I had to like cancel my visa interview and then start the whole process again. Ross, right? And yeah, to the visa journey. Okay. The visa journey was a crazy one. I think it's interesting that we all like work so hard to get admission. But then another stumbling block is the visa process.
Yeah.
It's just counterproductive because why are we working so hard and then getting admission from good schools, but still struggling to like get visa to like go to the schools, even with scholarship in some cases, right? I remember going to the Lagos embassy and then the consular officer just looked at me, asked a couple of questions, and then next thing just said, "I'm sorry, I'm not offering you a visa today." Oh my goodness. I went home. I wept.
Wow.
I cried.
I heard all the horror stories.
It was it was sad because literally you're standing there in front of like a lot of people and then you're just like getting rejected. And I'm like, what exactly did I do wrong when
Hmm.
the second time in Lagos again got rejected?
Wow.
And then I went to Abuja. And then the consular officer was like, "Oh, like, I'm wondering, why were you rejected? Like, I can see everything here. Like, why exactly were you rejected?" And you know, like, as Nigerians, when we do all these mock interviews, they're like, "Oh, like, if the consular officer asks you a question, like, give more than enough
Hmm.
response, right?" And then the consular asked me A, I'm giving her, like, A to Z. She's like, "Oh, no, like, you don't have to explain too much. I can see your profile. Like,
Hmm.
everything is fine." All she asked was for my scholarship letter and also my admission letter. She just said, "Oh, I'm giving you your visa today."
Actually.
I remember I'm a very composed person, but I remember being very disoriented. Like
Hmm.
when she offered me, I'm like, huh? Like, because I'd already had rejected like a couple of
Hmm.
times. Then,
Yeah.
yeah, like we
You're
didn't
already
even spend,
anticipating another rejection.
yeah,
Hmm.
we didn't even spend up to a minute, mind you.
Wow.
Like other interviews would have went on for like more than a minute, right? And then she was like, "You're getting your visa today," and she just was like, "Oh no, like take your time."
Wow.
Take your time. And then she gave me my visa, told me to come back and pick it up. Like, I remember calling my parents while trying to cross the road. Like, I crossed the road about 10 times that day. Like, at the same spot.
Hmm.
Because I was just so happy. And then, yeah, I remember resuming a week later than other international students because I got my visa the day orientation was
That's
starting
it.
at
Hmm.
school. And like shout out to Ross also for like giving me a week space to like just get myself together and like come to school.
Shout out to us. They didn't want to miss out on the brilliant studies, Tolulope.
And they didn't miss out of it.
And they didn't miss out on it. Amazing, amazing. But you were choosing between Ross and Rice, and even though they sound very similar, like I feel like they cannot be more different. I mean, in terms of let's just talk about location, right?
Yeah,
Rice is in Houston, Ross is
yeah,
in Michigan. One is
yeah,
extremely warm, one is extremely cold, right?
yeah.
When you then, you moved from a very temperate location, Lagos, to Ross that is very tropical, very cold, right?
Yes.
Did you have issues struggling? I guess getting settled in terms of just settling into Michigan. What did you think about living in Michigan for 2 years? Did you enjoy the place?
I'm a very adventurous person and I'm
Okay.
very open to change.
Yeah.
So living in Michigan was a very awesome experience for me,
Okay.
coming from Nigeria, right? And then
Yeah.
just really experiencing what winter is, right? And then finally deciding for myself that okay, like I've had enough of gloomy, cold winters. It was a very nice experience, and
Mm.
Michigan is also like a very big football school,
Yeah.
right? And also like why did I to be very honest, even in my like personal rankings, Ross was placed above Rice. And that's
Mm.
also because of the school curriculum. There's something that Ross does that's called like the multidisciplinary action program.
Yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
Yes. So it's where like for a whole semester, every student gets to work with a sponsor. So a sponsor is like a company or like an NGO that like works with us to work with students to just like help them solve certain issues they have within the organization. It's basically consulting,
Mm.
right? But it's in partnership with the school, right? And
Okay.
you're not like placed on a salary. So for my math project, I remember I got to travel to Rwanda to work with an NGO.
East Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the project span for like a month plus. So it's like a full semester of just doing that. So it's nice to like get your hands dirty
Yeah.
before like your formal internship starts. So that was like a very huge data point for me for picking Ross.
Okay.
And also, there's something I was called the Sangha Leadership Program. It's basically like the leadership center where you learn how to be a leader, how to communicate, just personal discipline, right?
Mm.
And also learning about the Michigan model of leadership. That was a very, very good. That was one of the reasons why I also picked Ross, right? And one of the reasons I'm looking like in hindsight now, I'm happy I chose Ross.
Yeah.
Also because of the spirits at Ross. I don't know if you've heard, but like we have one of the biggest alumni base when it comes to like MBA schools.
Interesting. How large is the class size?
So the class size, interestingly, is small. I remember my class, I were like a bit over 400, right?
Okay, that's kind of average, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, but one of the business schools that had like the small class size, right? But
Yeah.
you remember that Michigan has been here for over 100 years.
Exactly. So it's pretty
So
old. Okay.
yeah, and also don't I think what also unifies the school is the football spirit.
Mm.
Like everyone in school is very big on football. Like I really do not know anything about American football before coming to the US.
I was gonna add that clarification to
I'm in
international
Michigan,
listeners. This is American football, okay? This is not
and
soccer.
people like come back to Michigan
Yeah.
just to watch like football. So
Yeah.
that just also like unifies everyone, and then people are generally nice.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was like interning, no, like before getting my internship, when I was looking for one, I remember just reaching out to like people randomly,
Yeah.
and like at Visa now where I work, I just remember meeting one of my managers right now. He came for a conference at school, and then I just like reached out to him and I'm like, oh, like I want to apply for XYZ role at Visa, and then he like literally helped me from point A till the end,
Yeah.
entire recruitment process, and then introduced me to other rosters within the network. So like the family is very welcoming and also like very helpful.
Mm.
So yeah, like looking back, I have no regrets picking Ross over Rice, even though the loan size is something, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
zero picking Ross over Rice.
Interesting. Apologies to anyone from Rice listening to this podcast. Tolu still loves rice, okay? He's a rice person at heart, right? Right. But yes, a couple of things that you started talking about, and I want us to talk a bit more on, right? One is the kind of support that you got pre-enrollment. How does that line up with what the experience was like when you then enrolled? You spoke about, these instances where alums would come to campus and, how you met your visa manager and how they're very, very instrumental in your recruiting process for visa. But let's speak a bit more generalistically now, right? Say the admissions committee, second year students, you know how much people are very nice to you when you're trying to apply and everyone
Yeah.
like wants to support. But sometimes when you get on campus, you might not get that level of support. Do you think that was the case in your situation? Did you get just the same amount of help? What do you think?
Yeah, so I really want to highlight that I'm speaking from my own experience. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that people would have like different experiences, like even going to the same institution. Personally, I feel like I had a very good support system at Ross.
Okay.
At Ross, there's something we call like sorry, I'm forgetting the name right now. I don't know, I'm blanking out. So it's like where first years are matched with second years, right? Who have maybe done consulting, right? And then the MBA ones who want to do consulting. So it's called,
Okay.
yeah, so we have like peer coaching and also
Mm,
group. It's called fact group. Yes.
fact. Okay.
So you're in a group of 5 with an MBA or 2 who has gone through the process. So they basically handhold you like how to update your resume,
Yeah.
features,
Yeah.
how to like speak,
Yeah.
how to get in tune with
Yeah.
speaking, like just doing coffee chats the American way, right? And also just preparing you for interviews. I remember like having a very amazing facts group leader, right? And also like peer coaching where you have like MBA tools who have also like gone through the process, who are available resources for you to just like meet up with and then just walk you through a case or an interview. And also we have like career coaches at Ross. They were very instrumental in me like getting my role at Visa.
Interesting.
Before like getting the interview invite, I was already panicking because there was like a huge gap between when I submitted my resume and when
You
I
heard
heard back
back.
from Visa. And then I was already like looking out to like do off-campus recruiting. And then I remember one of our career coach is just basically coaching me through the whole process. Like, your resume should be like this. Oh, this is what you should say. Like, don't say it this way. Like, you're in America. You shouldn't say things this way, right? She
Mm.
just like really packaged myself.
Is this
To,
person American?
yeah, she's American.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's American. And then just like, oh, but she's American, but she has ample experience working with internationals.
Nationals. Yeah.
So
Okay.
she's basically, her role is just basically focused on international students.
Okay.
So she
Okay.
has very good experience working with us. And then I remember her like running me through a couple of mock interviews just to like get me running, even though I didn't have any interview in sight. She told me to
Mm.
constantly keep like working on my
Practicing, practicing.
skills. And even when the interview invites came for visa, the whole mock interviews we had was very helpful, right? And even when it came to me negotiating, she was one that ran through my offer letter and said, "Oh, this is what you should ask for. Oh, okay,
Mm.
this is co- um based on industry standard, right?
Oh, wow.
This is good. This is not good, right?" She just basically walked me through everything I needed to do, and yeah, I feel like I had very good support from Ross. Like personally speaking, I had good support from Ross, and I am thankful.
Interesting. Shout out to the admissions lady. I wanted to point out that, some of the things that you said, I wanted to highlight some of them. One is, you were talking about facts and how you would get second years being responsible for helping people prepare. That's really good to hear. Something like that exists at Duke as well. I think it's called case families. We call them case families. And the second year would be like the case parent, and then they would have like 3 or 4 case siblings, and they have to do the exact same things, right? So for anyone listening, a lot of these resources carry across different schools available at most. I would say the top 20, top 15
Yeah.
schools probably are very similar resources, right? So, in case you listen to another interview and the person doesn't talk about facts or doesn't talk about case parents, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure the entire top 15, top 20 US schools have very similar offerings. So, EMC, call them different name, Career Management Center. Some call them career coaches, whatever. You would have similar structures at all the schools. So I wanted to highlight that. And my next question for you, Tolu. People say that the MBA is a 2-year holiday. What do
2-year holiday. I wouldn't look at it from a angle of it being a holiday.
you okay?
For me personally, it was a 2-year time to really reflect. I feel like I've never reflected as much as I did this past 2 years, right? I know people come on the MBA, just try to have fun, like move on. Like it's very fast paced, right? You're moving from one thing to the other. So there's really no time for you to like calm down,
Yeah,
like take account of what has happened and then do your plus and minus before moving on to the next thing. But for me, I feel like what I tried to do a lot was to take a pause, reflect on everything that has happened, like feedback I've gotten from friends, right? Even from my career coaches.
yeah,
But it was basically a 2-year period for me to improve myself as a human being. But coming to the vacation part, I feel like also I've never traveled as much as I did during my MBA.
oh,
So
oh,
in that aspect, maybe yes, it's a
mm,
2-year free vacation time because I really don't know when I would have time to like travel back to back as much as I did
yeah,
during the
yeah,
MBA.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And just to emphasize some of the things you said, right? Like the MBA, the 2 MBA experience is what you make of it, right? And while you would have priorities and deadlines, for the most part, they are not hard priorities in the sense of you get to choose what's important, right? It doesn't mean there will be no consequence of you not turning in an assignment or you missing class, for example. Like you're not going to get sent out of the MBA program for missing a class. You might get a low grade, but if your GP is not important to you, then it doesn't matter, right? And another thing you said is the fact that there's 1,000 things happening in the NBA at every particular time. Like everyone wants your attention. And so I
Yes,
feel like for that reason, the NBA is a very good place to learn to prioritize, to learn to like, zone out or exactly. Like if you go into the NBA not knowing how to prioritize, how to say no, you're gonna have a horrible time because you would sign up for so many things, you spread yourself so thin and you wouldn't
yeah,
have any memorable experience in anything at all. So that's a good place to learn that. Thanks for highlighting that. But let's talk about, making connections. You kind of alluded to it earlier when you spoke about your career coach saying that, "Oh, this is not how we see things like this in America." Let's make that a bit more general. Making connections with people, connecting with people. What did that feel like, right? Because I'm pretty sure in Nigeria, right, when we're applying for jobs, for example, you don't need to really talk to anybody in the firm. You find an opportunity that attracts you. You apply. If you're qualified, you get shortlisted. Yeah, you might chat to 1 or 2 people, but nothing serious, right? it's kind of the opposite in America, where you probably won't even shortlist you for any interview if you haven't spoken to like 10 or 15 people, right? What did that feel like navigating that process, and how did you get the hang of networking?
Speaking about this, I remember talking to a friend a few weeks ago, and I was like, I just like drew a graph of my life, and I'm realizing that the point at which I started my MBA, I was very much an introvert,
Mm,
but the MBA has pushed me out of that introverted state.
yeah,
I'm not extroverted, but
mm,
like already out of that introverted
super
state.
introverted
Yeah.
state, yeah.
So like I remember like the first few months, I used to complain about coffee chats. And then there's something like we call like the dirt circle, where like after a corporate presentation, like a complete presentation, and then
Mm,
your small circles,
sip
all of you
circles,
are trying
yeah.
to get the attention of the recruiter,
The
just
recruiter or something, yeah.
stick with people, right? We call it the dirt circle at Ross. So I used to get stressed out a lot. Like why are we just talking? Like
Mm,
it's just like small talks. But then I started like talking with friends. I realized that you just have to, first of all, you have to push yourself. Right. Second, it's also important to have like personal experiences that you can share and also connect with others. And that's why I think it's also very important to be adventurous in your MBA. Like try things out and then come to event to like talk about them. So I realized that as time went on, when I started like exploring things or like traveling, going out, like going to football matches, I had things to say at these coffee chats, right? And also I realized that it's also very just important to like research who you're talking with, who you'll be speaking with, because that just helps make the conversation easier. Like, oh, they like this, they don't like
mm,
that. Like I keen to what exactly they like.
yeah,
Think that's what has helped me to that's what helped me navigate that whole process. Just having something interesting to share, even
yeah,
if it's something that happened in Nigeria, because people are also very excited to know about your foreign experience because it's
yeah,
something they don't have as well.
yeah.
So yeah,
No, it's really good that you highlighted that. And something I noticed when I got to school was a lot of people were a lot of internationals would try to be I think the right way to say it is they'll try to be Americanized, right? But the thing is, a lot of us lack the context that Americans have, right? So, if Americans are talking, like they can make reference to, I don't know, things that every American would know because they were like the Indomies or the Baba Blues or the blue bands of Nigeria, and everybody experienced this growing up. So they have that context, right? And so if Africans or or internationals are not conscious about kind of transporting their experiences into conversations, helping, these Americans widen their horizon.
yeah,
Essentially, it would be a very difficult conversation trying to have, trying to talk to them or trying to blend in because you're just not going to have the context that they have, right?
yeah,
And they would talk about things that you have never heard before, right? So it was something that I personally had to, consciously bring into conversations, right? So I would say something that an African would know and then give the American equivalent, right? So I would then try to help them make sense of it. And
yeah,
with time, some of them were more comfortable with, some of the African and Nigerian references. Thanks for mentioning that. But let's talk a bit now about, I'd say, the emotional part of moving to a different country. You mentioned being close to your parents, having their support, and suddenly you're thousands of miles away from them, 6 hours or 5 hours from them. What did that feel like in terms of emotions, right? Was it difficult for you to settle in from an emotional point of view? How did you get emotional support? What did that feel like?
yeah. So going back to what I said earlier, I have two brothers. During my MBA, I had two brothers also in the US, right? And I had like a very good support system in the US as well, even though they were not in Michigan.
Mm,
Right. So it was just very easy to just call someone, share. Thankfully as well, all this support system also had gone through the process. So it
yeah,
was easy
and
to
could
like,
relate. Yeah.
yes. And then they're like, oh, do this, do that. Like, this is how you can navigate that. And then I just had a very good support system. So I really didn't feel lonely. And also, like, my parents were we used to like video call like almost every day, like have like family group. We have like a family group chat. So everyone is just like sharing their experiences. So we were always like keeping up with each other. So
Despite the time difference?
despite the time difference, yeah,
Interesting.
we just
Okay.
always found time that worked
Mm,
for everyone, right? And then we just didn't feel so far apart, right? I remember when I even saw my parents like later in the year in December, they were like, oh, like I just realizing that they haven't like actually seen us in a while, but like it doesn't feel that way because
Yeah,
we are constantly talking.
that's good. That's good. That's good. Does Ross use the case method?
So Ross uses a combination.
Okay.
So we just don't do the case method. We do a combination of both, of
Okay.
like
So
case and
research.
so we basically call it the action learning. We basically call it action learning.
Okay.
We're using case, we're using theory, we're also like using like real life experiences.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Got it. And do you have any horror stories from class? Were you ever cold called? What did that classroom experience look like?
I feel like in first year, I really didn't like the class experience because, I'm like fresh from Nigeria,
Yeah.
right? I'm not used to being cold called. I'm not used to like this style of teaching where like
Mhm.
the professor is expecting me to contribute.
Yeah.
As if you understand what I mean, right? I have to like come like fully prepared. Like I already had my
Yes.
notes for the whole semester, so the onus is on me to prepare for the class. It just felt very, very weird, right? For like the first year, I was still trying to find my balance, right? Coupled with the fact that I was recruiting, it was kind of hard to navigate. But in the second year, I fully immersed myself in school.
Nice.
And like I was making sure I prepared before every class, also like raising my hands up. Even if my one thing I also realized at school in the US is professors are very, I don't want to say nice, but like the teaching experience is kind of
Very
different.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, they expect you to like ask questions.
Mm,
Like they always say, no question is stupid, no question
yeah.
is
They
like
would even reach out to you if you're doing
yeah,
badly and you're not reaching out. Like
yeah,
I know a couple of people who had emails from professors say, I noticed your performance has gone down in this class. You're not speaking up. Like, come
yes.
to my office hours, let's talk.
Yeah. So like that experience was very nice, and then a professor just like telling you like what the point you raise is very like very smart. Like, oh, let's discuss it outside class, right? There's
Mm,
really no friction between students and professor, right? And also the fact that you don't call your professor, like you are allowed to call them by name.
first
That also
name,
like
also, yeah.
makes things very level, and then you can
Mm,
communicate with them as humans. I feel like the sweet spot for like classes during the MBA is just to prepare for class.
mm,
Prepare for class, come with questions, come with your personal experience because professors are always very happy to hear like different perspectives. We're taking this class called Re-examining Capitalism. So it's about like capitalism in the US and how
okay.
we can like restructure it. And the professor was very keen about like getting perspective from everyone from a different country.
Yeah,
Right. It was like, oh, like how is this done in your country? Like, oh, you need to contribute. Like, I remember also having like an assignment to like work on a couple of countries just to like share what their structure is like. Just
yeah,
basically to everyone's experience is very important,
mm-hmm,
basically.
yeah,
Particularly in a business school,
yeah,
everyone's experience is important. And yes, let me just highlight one more thing. I remember also taking one class called like Power of Prestige, and
okay.
then the professor was talking about Nigeria. But then the knowledge he had about Nigeria was outdated. And
Mm.
then I just like rose up my hand. I'm like, no, professor, like that's
I
so
just
outdated.
came from there. Let me up.
And you're like, this is it. And then I remember him calling me after class and telling me like, oh, like I should like just do research for him, send him an email. And after class, he told me like, oh, he was going to like include it in his curriculum going forward. And he was like very, very thankful and even like shared the mail with the whole class. So it's just to see that your professors acknowledge you and also see that you are valuable in like class contribution.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy that you spoke about this. What's it called? Prestige course?
All prestige,
Yep.
yeah.
And it's so important because, again, I see a lot of Africans, particularly, but internationals generally go to schools in the US and quite all right. Like, a lot of people want to Americanize or like try to understand the American perspective, but Americans also need to understand the international perspective, right? And we complain a lot about the fact that, oh, American thinks that, the world starts and ends in America. But if they are not getting these perspectives from the internationals who are coming to their country, it's difficult for them to understand, to appreciate what's happening outside of the US. So I honestly wanted to just highlight and encourage everyone who eventually goes to business school to be as confident as possible in bringing the international perspective to your classrooms, right? If all you want to do is learn how things are done in America, and you make no attempt to help them understand the African or the international perspective, then it's going to remain the way it is, where every case study is about American, every
Yeah.
case study is about America, every example is American, nothing about the rest of the 300 or something countries that exist in the world. So I just wanted to highlight that. So thank you. That's the 300 or something countries that exist in the world. So yeah, thank you for saying that. But I want us to now talk about your, you know, experience, your MBA experience outside of recruiting, outside of classes, all of that. One of the
Yeah.
things you did was the Africa Business Conference, where you were vice president of communications. Right? Talk a bit about that experience and how valuable the African community was to your journey, your 2-year journey.
Yeah. So the African community at Ross was very valuable to my experience because there's a very good friend of mine, Boma. Like we went through the whole process. Like Boma also like worked at PwC, right? He
Yeah,
also like went through like the visa process just like I did a couple of times, like getting dinged, right? And also like coming to Ross late.
yeah,
And also just also understanding that there are people who have experienced what I've experienced, but are also thriving,
yeah.
right? This, my friend, is a very good example of that case. Like, Boma is coming from Nigeria, even though he has like a bit of UK experience, but
Mm,
he was able to thrive in class, in school. So it was nice to just like lean on that friend, leaning on that friendship and just say, oh, like, Boma, like, I'm liking these skills. Like,
mhm.
I can see you're excelling so well at it. Please help me,
Yeah,
right? It even got to a stage where I realized that yeah, I'm an introvert, right? And I'm also trying to come out of my shells. I was able to like lean on these African friendships where my friend's friend automatically becomes my friend,
mm,
right? I make sure that I become friends with their friends so that they know I'm like, oh, that's Boma's friend. Okay, like it gives me easy access so that
yeah.
when I like go for events, I feel more comfortable
Around them, yeah.
and I'm able to just like really mix and also just get to know people outside my comfort zone. So it's nice to just have the African community to lean into for places where I find that I'm very weak. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, Tolu, what would you say is the greatest value of the MBA to your career, aside starting to work at Visa and all of that, right? What value would you say the MBA has added to your career or your career perspective, maybe to your leadership style or your leadership capability that you think would not have happened if you hadn't gone for the MBA?
Okay. So first, I think it's the first would be the pool of people I now have access to,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Back in Nigeria, if I'd done my MBA in Nigeria, right, I do not think I would have had access to this pool of people from various walks of life, experienced different things, and then we're able to like just break bread together, sit
Yeah.
together, just talk about America as a whole, and also just lean on their strengths to also like navigate the system. So like
Mm.
the people, very huge value add for me. Um, Secondly would be finding myself as a person. This might sound interesting because you're like, oh, like why didn't you find yourself before MBA?
Right.
Well, I think the MBA gives you time to pause. Prior to MBA, I was already working, I was like already running up and down, or like promotion, or like family.
Mm.
These 2 years gave me time to really pause and truly focus on what I was really, really interested in. Right. I was able to like truly find myself. Also correct, just learn and relearn things that I thought were right. So that'll be two, just an
Okay.
opportunity to like truly reflect on who I am as a person. And then the third would be access to the global market, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
No shade to Nigeria, but it would have been hard for me to have gotten this kind of access I have right now, right? I've interviewed with a couple of companies. I understand how the global market works. Like I'm closer to it, so I can relate better, right? And I'm also understanding the lingua franca,
Yeah.
global of the
Global
global.
trade. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say those three things are what I would say have really stood out as the value add for the MBA.
Amazing. And you're very right in the sense that the US is at the center of global trade right now, right? Like it or hate it, but it's difficult to talk about any aspect of global trade or economics, finance without mentioning case studies from the US. So being at the center of that definitely adds immense value to the quality of one's experience. But I intentionally asked that question as a preamble to this other one, right? Where the US is in a very interesting place right now. I mean, when we were applying for the MBA, we were already hearing conversations around how the economy isn't in the best place and how immigration is not what it used to be and things like that. But I feel like even more so now, the economy is, I'd say, especially for international students, it's probably not as lucrative as it was 3, 4 years ago, right after COVID. And, there's a lot of immigration changes that have now happened, or I'll say visa changes that have made things a bit more complicated, right? And I wanted to ask you, if you were applying today, right, in the context of everything that's happening on the immigration and employment, or I'd say economic landscape, would you still have decided to do an MBA in the US? What kind of considerations would you have had?
This is a very interesting question because I remember when we were recruiting for even our internship, the market, I feel like that was even like the beginning stage of when the market started to go bad,
Yeah.
right? And then like recruitment wasn't as easy as it was. And I remember like, people even said, oh, like they think they made a mistake coming for like leaving their very good jobs to like
Yeah.
come to pursue the MBA in the
Yeah.
US.
Okay.
For me, I feel like first of all, I've spoken to like the people I know now, like my source of strength, like my community, like like I would have really leaned into their advice. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're the ones experiencing this. What do you think is best for me? Because I know like you guys want the best for me. We know each other.
Yeah.
What is your fair
Yeah.
advice?
That's good.
So I've really lean into that,
Okay.
right? And also consider that at the end of the day, I really don't know how to like put this, but coming to the US, right, even with everything that is happening, I know it's hard to get a job, but I really don't think it's a wasted experience at the end of. So even if you like come to school and go back to apply that knowledge back at home, I don't think you've lost anything. It's a huge resource. Looking at the friends you've made, like the community you've built, you can
Even
always.
if even if you have to incur $200,000 in.
Because the $200 part that is now okay. Now let's not put in the $200 part into
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah.
I feel like personally for me, people's backgrounds are different. That's what I say. So in some cases, it's very important to like weigh your options, right? Do I have anything to fall back on? Like, do I have a support system somewhere? Right? For me, I have because I have a very good support system. So gamble I would have taken either ways. And I also think I'm someone who kind of likes taking risk. So I'm like, oh, people ahead of me have succeeded.
Why
Even
not?
wasn't like the market was shining. I feel like the MBA market peaked during COVID.
Yes,
Right.
2021 I've heard is probably the
But
best year ever for MBAs. Yeah. Everyone
after
had like 4 or 5 offers.
yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Now if you have one job offer, you should be very thankful.
You hold it tight.
You should be very thankful. So for me, I would have just leaned into that support system some way, somehow, and then just find a way to like navigate myself to where I need to be. So for me personally, I feel like I would have taken the risk because of the support system I have.
Amazing. Amazing. So it sounds like what you're saying is each person has to do an individual analysis,
Yes.
considering what their situation is, what kind of support system they have, what the plan Bs and Cs are for them, and then
Yeah.
see if it makes sense in their context.
Yes.
That sounds.
So even speaking about like plan A and plan Bs, I remember at Ross, the school had like a frank conversation with us, like, oh, everyone wants to recruit for consulting, yes, but we need to be sensible when we're doing these things. Get an MBB job. You have to have a plan a plan B, a plan C. For me, I recruited for consulting, recruited for tech. I also recruited for like finance and any other thing. I was just sending out my I was just sending out my resume, right? So it's also important to not be too myopic. The thing I've also realized is that the market is huge. MBB is not the only way to success.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. There are also other routes to success,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can look at other things and then carve a niche for yourself, right? And also just don't let like peer pressure, because I feel like that's what most MBA students are very susceptible to. Peer pressure. Everyone is going this way. I need to go that way so that I don't like feel like the black sheep. So yeah, everyone really needs to, because when people also like reach out to me like, oh, Tolu, XYZ, like, how do I make a decision? I'm like, okay, this is where I'm coming from. And I made this decision based on XYZ.
Mm,
Your situation, like, see how I switched from rice to Ross. I feel like it was a huge gamble to have done that, to be
mm,
very honest, right? For someone else, it wouldn't have even made sense at all to have done that. And mind you, I had more scholarship from rice than I
mm,
did from Ross, right? So it's just important for everyone to just weigh their situations
mm,
and really look at themselves as an individual. Don't compare yourself to your friend. Your friend is at Booth or at XYZ school and you are Z position. Please look at yourself as an individual first before you start comparing yourself with your friend. Everyone's MBA path is different, to be
yeah.
very honest. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for saying that. And kind of like you said, right, especially in the US, a lot of companies are not standalone like the way they are in a lot of emerging markets. There's a lot of intersection between these industries.
Yes.
You say you want to work in consulting, but you can work in consulting, in the sense of being a strategy consultant at an MBB or like a core consulting firm, but you can also work as a corporate strategist internally doing very similar work,
Yeah.
almost the same work, you know and that's an entire industry now because you're interested in corporate strategy roles. Suddenly you can apply to all the consulting firms, but you can also apply to all the corporates because they have strategy roles, right? So that's a good um mindset to have in terms of not being myopic with your interests. So thanks for adding that. Now I would say two unofficial questions for you, right? I'm done with all my official questions. One is, now that you've gone to Ross, right? Tell me something about Ross that you found out that you could not have found out on a brochure or a website, something you needed to go to Ross to find out. So it can be as simple as, say, like a painting at Ross or a building or a tunnel or a restaurant, something that, you kind of need to experience Ross to find out. And two is, tell me something about yourself that we haven't spoken about. Something aside all the corporate stuff, right? What kind of things are you interested in? Your hobby, something you like to do to indulge and things like that.
So one thing you never have found out about us is how the business school, at every corner, there's an art.
Mm,
So I remember also like applying for this. It was a snap cancel program where we had to like also pause and also just really look around to fully take in what we can see.
mm.
Because everyone is in the business school, everyone is like moving so
The
fast,
whole,
seeing what is around you. And then the survey showed that of everyone in class, only 5% have seen the art on the wall before someone actually spoke about it.
mm,
So it's very interesting. At every corner of the building at Ross, there's an art. And you never have known without like walking into the business school.
yeah, okay.
And like I love art. So it's
Mm.
just nice to just
Be
pause.
surrounded,
It's hot one day and I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, this is there, right? What is this trying to tell me?
mm,
So yeah, so that's one thing you never have known.
okay.
And who is Tolu outside this whole
Yes, MBA career.
yeah. I feel like I love nature.
Okay.
If you call me, like, even if I'm dead tired and you tell me, oh, Tolu, like, oh, let's go see the sunrise at 6 a.m., I'm down.
Mm,
I'm coming along with you, right? I'm that kind of person. I love, like, adventures. I just, like, I like pushing myself out of my comfort zone,
okay.
right? Just doing things. And to be very honest, I've kind of reflected. I feel like I do it just to help manage my fear as an individual. Doing adventurous things just helps me be less fearful. I don't know if that makes
That makes
sense.
sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just do those things just to be less fearful. Like, oh, like we've crossed this river, we
Mm.
can do this. So yeah, I'm a very adventurous person. I may not look like it. Most people always say, "Oh, like you don't give up that vibe," but really, like
That means Michigan was the right place for you because it's very outdoorsy, right?
Michigan was the perfect
Yeah,
place
it's
for
very
me.
outdoorsy. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Tolu. I just want to take the time to thank you so much for making the time to be here. It was good to hear about all of your experience. And I'm sure a lot of people would find it very, very useful.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome and see you guys on another episode of the Business 101 podcast. Thank you.